Hello, so I'm going to be discussing the text A and the text B. Text A is an advertisement for BMW cars. Text B, it's a PSA on protecting the ocean, especially sea turtles. So yeah, so first of all, in the text A, we have the use of logos and the use of logic reasoning to try to sell the product to the reader, which is similar to the way that it's done um, in the PSA or the text C. I'm sorry, not text B, text C. And the similarities come from the fact that they use some type of data, and they also appeal a lot to the logic reasoning of the reader, so they can kind of make the decision to buy the product or buy the idea. So, for example, in the BMW, they bring out numbers specifically on like money and how the car will be a good financial decision for the audience to buy. And they also kind of like have this complementary, which also kind of appeals to the financial side as well, which is they're like, okay, so they will also give me something. So they are giving them a charger for the car because the car is hybrid or electric. I'm not really sure. And then in text C from the PSA, we can also see some type of data, not financial one, but they do say about like killing thousands of turtles, and they kind of also discuss this idea of like, wouldn't you protect the ocean and another species if you could for like low effort? So they're kind of also having this reasoning of if you don't need to do that much, you can already help a ton, and then BMW like you also don't need that much and you gain a lot from it. So they also have this idea on they kind of share how they use logos to appeal to the reader, mostly like by logic and reasoning of the reader. So yeah, so discussing a little bit about ethos. Discussing a little bit about pathos. We see a lot of pathos in the text C and not that much in text A. And in text C, we see it from a diverse of different reasons. So the image that they show, which like it's almost the focus point of the PSA, you're underwater and you're seeing all of these jellyfishes and all of these plastic bags, and they're very similar to each other, but you're also from a turtle perspective. So you're kind of being part of the problem, or you are the person that is in trouble. So you're suffering from the problem. They're kind of trying to put you in the turtle's shoes, and then they're kind of into emotional side, like what if you had to eat these jellyfishes and then you would accidentally eat that plastic bag? So the pathos in the PSA, I would say, is much more stronger than the BMW, because in the BMW we do see only in the text box on the bottom right corner. So they kind of use a language and a tone of like trying to convince you, trying to make you excited for the product when they're like sheer driving pleasure, or they use these types of words that appeal to the emotion of the reader of excitement and wanting to buy the product. But it's done like a much less visible way when it's like only in the text logo, which is not something that the readers will look at first thing when they see this advert, in comparison to the PSA, where the first thing that they will look at is the image and kind of have this idea of being a turtle, of seeing how many plastic bags and how little differences the plastic bags and the jellyfishes do have. Another major difference of the both advertisements and the PSA is the use of ethos. I would say that in text C, they almost don't have like ethos, and in text B, they kind of have it a little more. So instead of showing power in BMW advert, they kind of show power and kind of show this figure of authority, which is the BMW trademark, the company, because they do already have a lot of influence. So they're kind of showing how influence they have and how good they're doing and how good their cars are with the logos on all the cars that you clearly can see. The color scheme, which is like black, white, and blue, and then that also like connects to the logo, as well as like the big cars, like the cars that are really the first thing that you notice, and they're really big, they're shadowy, they're kind of contrast in the image, so you can kind of just see BMW all over the place. So they're kind of saying like, you should respect us, we are this big authority, and so on and so forth. But in the PSA, they do have some ethos. I know I said they didn't, but they do have some, and it's just done in a different way, and it's less evident. So the ethos in this case, instead of being of power, authority, and power figure, they're kind of doing the opposite, I would say, a little bit. They are not really trying to sell their organization, but rather the idea. So they don't really have this power figure of like, we are the ones doing good, you should do one. And so yeah, I would say that in the PSA they're doing it a lot differently, and most likely you're also kind of seeing in a position of opposite of power. You're kind of being the turtle, and you're being the one that is suffering from the problem. So it's a lot different than the advert in that sense. And then if we see the visual features of both texts, we can see how like they use it in a different way, but they're also very similar. So they're similar in sharing both blue color scheme, and the first one, I would say the text say it kind of also shows nature, but like the green of nature, and in the second one they kind of show the ocean. So because the first advertisement is appeal for users should buy or readers should buy electric cars, they're kind of appealing to this idea of nature and protecting nature, as well as the second one, but in a different way. When the first one they're talking about forests and trees, and I would say even greenhouse gases, but in the second one they're more appealing to like the biodiversity of oceans and protecting species. So they're both kind of using color schemes of like blue and green to talk about nature and talk about electricity in the first one, and the second one talking more about oceans and ocean biodiversity. They kind of also have like the same goal, which is to remind you to protect the planet, and they do it in a similar way, but a little bit different. Thank you.